Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials. Well, welcome to another video on the subject of cooking with your preps. And I've been going through my long-term food preps just to see what needs rotating out. Came across these boxes of instant mashed potato. They're really convenient, these, because you literally just do add boiling water. There's no milk to add. So I thought I'd do something with these. Similarly, in the long-term preps, corned beef, tinned meat, I always have lots of that. This is still well in date, but I thought I'd use it for a little recipe to make something called corned beef hash. Now, if you're an American viewer, you might find that the UK version of corned beef hash is a little bit different to the US version. And indeed, even in the UK, there are variations on the theme. So I'm just going to do it my way and see what you think. So let's take a look at the ingredients. We've got instant mashed potato. You literally mix 300 ml of boiling water with one sachet of these, and you have allegedly 2 servings of mashed potato. I guess it depends how hungry you are. I suspect I might be using 2 sachets rather than 1. Next on the list, baked beans. Definitely a long-term storage staple. They'll last forever. No real such thing as a best before date with canned goods. And the same applies to this corned beef. This is 340 grams of corned beef in this tin. I forget how much there is in the beans, but it's a standard can of beans. 420 grams in that tin. From our self-sufficiency garden, an onion, so a medium-sized onion. You could get away with dried onion and reconstitute it, or you could get away with frozen onion. Just thaw it out and it'll do the same job. A few little condiments, some Worcester sauce, salt and pepper, and something that probably won't be in your long-term preps because it doesn't keep that long. I'm going to be putting a bit of cheese on top of the corned beef hash. If you don't store instant mash, you could use tinned potatoes. I have lots of tinned veg in my long-term preps. So this, I think this is 560 or 67, certainly 560 grams in this tin. You could use that, just boil it up and mash it. Or similarly, from your self-sufficiency garden, you could just pull out your own potatoes straight out the ground and mash those up. But because I want to use up this mashed potato and rotate it out, I'm going to be using that. It'll be quite interesting to see how it turns out, because to be honest, I've never used it in that way before. So get ready for a disaster. But yeah, that's the ingredients. Let's get some cooking done. So first things first, pop a little bit of olive oil into a saucepan. I'm using a saucepan rather than a frying pan because I'll be adding the beans later, and clearly you don't want those in a frying pan. So take our onion, just top and tail it. Get rid of the bits we don't want. It's typical, I started doing this video and all of a sudden the neighbour decided he was going to do some grinding of some description on his van outside, so you may well find as I go through this I might get distracted by noise, but we'll see how we get on. So we're just going to chop these up into fingers, reasonably thin slices and then just reduce those further into manageable sizes to let them fry off quite quickly. I'll just separate the rings as I drop them into the pan. Scoop those up. And same again. The amount of times I have almost had an accident with this meat cleaver, but I just find it easier than using a knife, particularly on vegetables. We've got a whole host of activity going on outside now. Somebody's getting a delivery. The parcel delivery companies must be loving this during the COVID crisis, because everybody is now doing everything online, apart from people like me who have still been working through the crisis, because we're not here to take deliveries. We're at work. Sometimes I'm a little bit envious, I have to say. Right, so that's the onions into the pan. I'll just pop that onto the heat and we'll get those fried off. I'll just get these started off and then I can turn the heat down and just let them slowly reduce. There is something really, really wonderful about the smell of onions frying. I don't quite know what it is. I kind of have flashbacks to my youth, because pretty much everything back in the day had onions in it. And a lot of stuff was actually, meat-wise, was fried. Clearly they weren't worried back in the day about things like cholesterol. I think we all were a lot more active back in those days to need to worry about things like that. So I'll just let those slowly, I'll turn the heat down to a low heat and just let those do their thing while I get on with a bit more preparation work. So while I have the chopping board out, I'll just chop up this corned beef. Top tip with this, if you leave it in the fridge for a while before you take it out of the tin, it does help to make it a bit more stable when you come to chop it up. Be really careful with these, because these are razor sharp. I speak from experience. I've lost count of how many times I've actually cut my finger opening that kind of tin. So all we're going to do with this literally is cube it. Fairly sizable thickness, probably about, I don't know, what's that, 3/4 of an inch, something like that. So we're literally just going to cube it up into little cubes, and then we'll just set it aside into this dish until it comes time to want to use it. Okay, get rid of that. just do keep an eye on the onions. Don't forget that you've got them. Just bear with me a second while I give these a little bit of a stir. If you leave them sitting too long, they will definitely burn. We want them to be caramelised, but we don't want them to be crispy. And to be fair, these are already starting to brown off quite nicely. If you can see that or not. So we'll just let those have a few more minutes. And try to escape. And we'll get back to the rest of the prep. Right, we're on a bit of a roll now. I've got my boiling water ready. I just need to open a can of beans and drop those in with the onions that are still on a low heat, just caramelising. So let's get rid of that. And we'll quickly pop those into the onions. And I just mix these together. Clearly the beans are already cooked, so you don't need to worry about cooking them. You just want to heat them through. So I'll just leave that there, and I'll turn this right down now. So we can get on with the mashed potato. Now, just to err on the side of caution, I'm going to do 2 of these. So literally all you're doing is pouring them into the dish. And then add gradually, that's a lot of potato, gradually add, just make a little well in there and gradually stir in the water. As you get towards the end of the water, just hold back a little bit, because you want to make sure that you don't put too much in. Not enough isn't a problem, too much is a problem. And we're okay with this. Make sure you get right the way down to the bottom of the dish. You don't want any of it not to get mixed in from the bottom, and you end up with a little almost like rice at the bottom that hasn't been mixed in. And looking at this, I think it was the right decision to use 2 of those sachets. If you have some left, it doesn't really matter, you can always eat it. Free snack while you're cooking. If you want to, you can add butter to this. To be honest, I've never found the need to do it with this. This particular brand of mashed potato is actually quite reliable and quite nice tasting without adding anything. that's not bad consistency at all. You find that a lot of it dries out because it's boiling water and it'll steam off. So I have actually used all of that 600 ml of water. A bit laborious this, but it is better than having to peel a load of potatoes and then boil them and then mash them. Right, we need to be moving now. I'll just set that to one side for a second and we'll bring in our dish. So all we're doing is literally laying out our corned beef into the bottom of this, it's a small casserole dish. And then we'll just firm it down so it fills the base. And give us room for our other ingredients. I'll just check on those onions and beans quickly. Yeah, they're fine. They're just nicely heating through, which is all you really want them to do. You don't want them to be cooking anymore. So next on the agenda, we're going to add our onion and beans. You have to be careful now to gauge this correctly because you need room for your mashed potato. So I think that will be sufficient. We'll just quickly layer on our mashed potato. That pan was starting to boil up again. Now I've took everything out of it. Try not to force the bean mixture out around the side of the mashed potato. If necessary, do what I'm doing here and just use your fingers. It's your fingers, so you know where they've been. You can smooth it down in a moment. So the decision to use the 2 sachets of potato was the right one. Because that has used it all up. A little bit escaped there. Okay. Just wet that spatula down and then just run it around the edge just to seal the edge. Stop all the beans from escaping. Okay, we're now ready for the final ingredient. I've had quite a lucky escape with this really, because I don't have a huge range of casserole dishes. It was either this one or a ruddy enormous one, which would have just dwarfed it. So I'll just grab some cheese and then and the grater, and we can coat it up with some cheese. I'm just grating this cheese up, and I think there should be enough there. All we're literally going to do, I'll just grab a little tray. Apologies, that's me not being prepared. I'm just going to pop that onto this tray to go in the oven, because there is a chance it's going to escape out of the pan, out of the dish, sorry. So we'll just sprinkle this, give it a nice covering of cheese. It will work its own way to the edges as it melts, so don't go too close to the edge, otherwise you'll lose all the cheese off the edge of the casserole dish. And there we go, almost perfectly judged, which is a bit of a first for me. I normally do too much or too little. So that's our little cheesy topping. I'm acquiring a sink full a sink full of washing up in the process, but that's our hash, corned beef hash, ready to go into the oven. I'll pop that in on a preheated oven, 200 degrees. It's not going to take long really. You're just watching the cheese for it to start melting and just slightly starting to turn brown. But if you remember, everything is already pre-cooked in there, so all we're really doing is warming it through. So I'll get that popped in the oven, and then you can see the finished result. So we've got the oven at temperature, so let's just see if we can do this. Pop that into the middle shelf, and we'll just leave it there. I'm guessing 15 minutes, just for it to melt the cheese and start to brown it off, and then we'll be good to go. I'll let you see what happens in about 15 minutes. Well, it's been in 10 minutes now, just over 10 minutes. I'm just going to have a quick peek, and you can see that cheese is browning off nicely. That's pretty much done actually. So I'll just get myself sorted out, a couple of minutes, and I'll pull it out. Well, that's been in for about 12 minutes now, and it's ready to come out. So whilst that's been cooking, I've just boiled up a tin of mixed vegetables. I have loads of these in my preps. It's literally just a tin of various peas, carrots, potatoes, swede. But they're excellent, obviously last forever. So let me just pull out our corned beef hash. That's a bit hot in there. I'll get that onto there. So there we have our corned beef hash and the vegetables. All I need to do now is plate up, and you can take a look at the final product. This can be a little bit tricky. cheese will have welded itself to the casserole dish. So if you just run round it, ouch, that's hot, with a knife, just to free it from the edge. Decide where you're going to take your portion from and just cut through it to give the spoon a fighting chance. And then, without burning yourself, just pop that out. Portion size is entirely up to yourself, of course, but don't neglect the meat at the bottom of the dish. Some of it will escape when you try and spoon it out. So there we go, that's that. I boiled up some mixed vegetables. You can have whatever you want with this. I mean, you could just have the corned beef hash on its own as it is. I guess it depends how hungry you are. But there's certainly enough there. Condiments, salt and pepper as you wish. One thing I did forget to mention during the video, when I popped the baked beans into the fried mushrooms, that's the time to add your salt, your pepper and your Worcester sauce. And I clearly forgot to mention that in the video. So there we are. Corned beef hash with some mixed veggies. Bon appetit. Well, that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed the little recipe there for cooking with your preps. Give it a go. I think you might quite like it. If you did like the video, please do click on the like button. Also feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, welcome any comments, questions or suggestions you might have. Let me know what you thought about the recipe, and also if you have any recipes that you'd like to share with anyone that you can make by using stuff in your long-term food stores, just drop it in the comments section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.